Well, guys, looks like Joss Whedon didn't like my Angelina Jolie as Batgirl fanfic. But you know what, Joss? I write that for me and for my DeviantArt forums. I'm Joe Starr. This is ScreenJunkies News. Back in March, Variety broke news that Joss Whedon was in talks with Warner Brothers to write and direct a live-action Batgirl feature. Last night at the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 premiere, Variety caught up with Mr. Whedon, who confirmed that he is currently neck-deep in that their script. He also had some interesting things to say regarding the casting. Take a look.
I doubt it'll be a name. I think this is somewhere where you go and find Batgirl and then you cast her.
Someone that audiences don't look at and say, we know that person, you want it to be a fresh face and just think of focusing on the character?
I mean, I'm not against movie stars. They're great. But you need somebody who's going to be just right.
Hello!
Hey guys, sorry, my boss wanted to whisper something to me. With me to discuss just how far he's journeying into the unknown are ScreenJunkies editor-in-chief, Rob Cornett, DJ Woldridge. How you guys doing?
Hi.
Good, being a consummate professional.
Right on, yeah, just doing our thing.
Doing the thing.
And lest we forget, on social, the one and only Matt Key.
Hey,
hey Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. You write that fanfic, man. You do that for you.
Yeah.
You
know
write
what?
that.
Yeah, I think so
it.
too.
You wrote that for me too, buddy. I have so much Angelina Jolie fanfic.
I shared for like suggestions and stuff like that. But
you need notes.
Yeah, you need notes.
Yeah.
That's important. Otherwise,
Your second act hook.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Killer.
Thank you.
Lest we forget, fanfic has had a history of success over the last couple of years.
When it crosses over into Tokyo Drift, that part.
Yeah.
You do you, Joe. You do you.
No, Statham was not the reason that car crashed. I gotta go. So, guys, let's talk Batgirl. Not my Batgirl, Joss Whedon's Batgirl, shall we? So, Roth, he's talking about, not wanting to go the movie star route. He wants to cast an unknown to put under the cowl. Do you agree with this approach, or do you think that Joss Whedon's Batgirl, or just Batgirl in general, needs a name?
No, I mean, I agree with anything Joss Whedon does. Nothing weird about that. Just got to peek into my fanfic. I think it makes a lot of sense. This has been the Marvel approach over the last couple of years. They've taken actors who are not necessarily, so look, they were names. It's not like they just came off the boat, But if you look at casting like Robert Downey Jr., he was at a low point in his career where he was having trouble getting hired. Even Chris Evans was not a superstar at that point. Chris Hemsworth, he was the guy that we remembered as the dad in Star Trek, So they took people and made them stars because they were banking on the IP. And as we know today in film, like the IP is what drives everything, right? That's why we're seeing so many franchise films, remakes. Anything that has a brand familiarity is more likely to drive ticket sales at this point than necessarily movie stars. There's a couple of movie stars still out there that can maybe open, but that's not what is driving the box office. So it makes a ton of sense. And secondarily, on a creative level, I think that you run into the issue with a really established movie star of having trouble divorcing yourself from that personality and the character. So if you really want to establish a character that's not necessarily, everybody knows Batman, right? But this isn't a character that every household will know at this point. So if you really want to make your mark and establish that character, it makes sense to get somebody without that baggage. There are times, however, it makes sense to cast a movie star.
Sure. Well, you talked a little bit about Marvel. DJ, I know DC has done a lot of bigger moves. Ben Affleck as Batman, the directors that they've been picking. Is DC's IP big enough to go, here's an unknown, we're making her a star?
Well, when you bring up using the Thor and the Iron Man IP, like those weren't household names really then. And so if that's strong enough to go without huge names, then Batgirl definitely is. So it is interesting. You talk about the most recent DC movies with Ben Affleck and everything, but in the past, that's kind of been their MO with the original Christopher Reeve Superman and Christopher Nolan's Batman, as you get. Christopher Nolan even specifically said he tried to make his Batman like they made Christopher Reeve Superman, where you get a lead that's not necessarily the biggest name, and then you fill out the cast around him with huge names, which is probably what they'll do here. Like the villain will probably be a pretty big name.
Big name.
And Ben Affleck's probably going to show up.
Yeah. So we know, like, with Guardians, you're sprinkling in guys like Kurt Russell and stuff like that for smaller moves, and even the head of the Nova Corps. Stuff, those are much bigger names and much tinier roles than you're used to seeing them in.
Save you money.
Yeah. No. Exactly. So At what point in these movies do you need a name? Is it the villain? Is it just kind of a for fun stunt casting?
I think the thing is when you have you're right, Iron Man and Hulk. Iron Man being the thing that set off the entire universe. Downey was perfect in that role, and he was a household name. People knew who Robert Downey Jr. was. They knew enough to know, in that case, that the damage that he brought with him, for lack of a better word, or the history that he brought with him, actually added to the character. It informed the character. And I think that's what you see with some of the stunt casting, right? So when you see Kurt Russell cast as Ego, he's bringing the history of Kurt Russell, of what we know of Kurt Russell, of our already established feelings about that actor to the role, because it helps to do a lot with very little. Like, you can tell who this person is, or you have a perception of this person just based on who the actor is, and then you can play with that, right? So you can satisfy that expectation, or you can work against that expectation, or both. And so for smaller roles, I think that makes sense, because you can very quickly tell the audience a lot about who the character is. When you look at Ben Affleck or somebody like that for Batman, maybe to some degree the thinking there is, well, Batman's larger than life. We need a larger than life celebrity, somebody that brings that gravitas with them, or at least the idea that this person has been been in the public eye for a very long time.
Right. And so if your take on Batgirl is that she's not as notorious in Gotham as Batman is, you getting an unknown makes sense for that.
Yeah.
Well, and I would argue too, even even if Batgirl is not a massive IP, the Bat is, and Joss Whedon certainly is. I think at this point, people will go see, a Joss Whedon project just based on the name. No, absolutely. You have binders of fanfic that suggest that you'll buy those tickets. So let's talk about.
And it's about him, not his characters.
It's about him writing about him.
It's like fanfic that takes place in his writing room in Malibu. There's not a lot. It's like kind of like the indie version of fanfic.
It's like watching. It's like watching The Sims.
Yeah, it's like
Joss Whedon.
It's like the Duplass movie of fanfic.
Yeah, I've seen a page of it. It's just Joss Whedon writing, and then he slightly chuckles to himself.
And then he'll go on Twitter.
Really
It's charming. It's really charming.
Yeah, he'll go on Twitter and then feel sort of ashamed and jump off.
Yeah.
Those are the moments.
Like we all do. It's relatable. We all feel that way.
I love it so much. Speaking of relatable, let's talk what traits we want to see in an actress playing Batgirl. Because she is, internet comments will jump on me for this obvious statement, but she is very different from Batman. It's early. So what are you guys looking for in an actress playing Batgirl? What does she sort of really need to possess?
Borat in that? What was the accent?
I don't know. I'm falling apart. So guys, let's talk about what traits do you guys want to see brought to that character? What's that actress sort of need to bring to the table?
Well, I think in the vein of maybe having somebody that's not as established in Gotham, but has the tenacity. You know what? I was going to say scrappy, but I think tenacity might be a better word to describe that person that is somebody that projects that no matter what setback is put before them, they have the drive, even though they might not have the stature of like Batman, they have the drive to get over and accomplish the same things. So, because we're talking about a character that probably has one of the most traumatic histories in comics and currently has overcome that, through New 52, Rebirth and stuff like that, has overcome being paralyzed, overcome trauma, and is a stronger character for it. And so that is an actress that can portray that tenacity, that I can honestly believe that this person will be paralyzed, could overcome that and become one of the greatest superheroes in the world.
Yeah, I think there does have to be an emotional depth, I guess, for a lack of a better word. But look, it's Joss Whedon, so it's not going to end up being like heavy and draining to watch. It's still going to move, and it's still going to be highly entertaining. Yeah. But I think you do need a real actor to portray that character, because I think a lot of times what makes these characters work and what doesn't is that, right? Like, if they themselves can tap into, and particularly if they are going to play into that, there does have to be an ability to, like with Jessica Jones, portray some level of the resilience that comes specifically with having survived trauma.
That show's so
which
good.
Which is a different kind of resilience, right?
Yeah.
And even sort of like the damage part that does, and Mackie and I were talking about that can lead to
Mackie
recklessness.
over on social.
Yeah.
Mackie on social.
Hi.
That can lead to reckless behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think Jessica Jones is a good point because Kristen Ritter is probably about a third my size, but she honestly makes me believe she could kick my ass in that show.
Yeah.
You know?
She is very tiny
She's
woman.
very tiny, but you watch that show, it's like, yeah, she could probably kick my ass.
Yeah, easily. She also has the benefit of like, super strength and stuff. But
but the actress is good enough that she's able to make you believe that when she's like manhandling my culture, you're like,
Yeah.
Speaking of reckless, though, this is the craziest thing is on the drive over here on Fountain. As a matter of fact, if you've seen the Californians, you know why that's important. I saw this girl darting in and out of traffic across the street, and it was bizarre because she looked like, for a hot second, she looked like she was in a performance capture suit, and I was like, what is going on in LA? Are they shooting something nuts? And like, she got across the street and walked towards me, head to toe, fully decked out, Batgirl.
Nice.
Really strange. And I knew we were coming in to do this.
Yeah.
And she was on the phone and rushing. And I'm like,
Do you have an exclusive?
And you brought her in?
And I, for a hot second, I was like, is there an audition today? No, you're being crazy. There's not an audition. That's not what's happening. She's probably going to Hollywood and Highland to like do the pictures.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she was on the phone and rushing. And I'm like, she's getting to the crime scene. What's going on? So she certainly wasn't character because she ran in front of my car recklessly.
Right.
There you go.
Did
Mackie
she
on
slide
social?
across the hood?
She did.
That's how you know
That's
she's
where it
back
got
there.
really
That will
strange
actually
for
be
me.
the callback for the Batgirl audition.
Oh, she did the hood thing. We need to get
you
her
gotta
back
slide
in.
across this hood.
Yeah.
I would add, I think Batgirl has to love this. She has to love every time she puts on the cape.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. Every time she's swinging on a rope or punching a dude or cartwheeling, like she just has to exude how much fun she's having. And even though that's not always a good thing for Batgirl, how positive she is about this and how much she loves it, like. Because even with the old Adam West show, there was you got pumped when Batgirl would show up and she'd hit the button and the wall would turn around and she'd get on her bike. She just had a different energy about her. Even with the Adam West ridiculousness, he still had a gravitas about how he did things. But with her, and even Robin too, would just be like, holy this and that. But for her, she was just like, no, I just show up and I punch dudes. It's great, and then I leave for a couple of episodes.
Because that's something unique about Barbara Gordon is Bruce Wayne plucked Dick Grayson and was like, ooh, I'm going to mold you. I'm going to make you like me. And Barbara Gordon didn't need any of that. Yeah. She went all on her own. She saw that. And it's like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
And that sort of plays in really well with the kind of tone that Joss Whedon typically does bring. Especially, because if you think about Buffy, which I do a lot.
We don't blame you. We don't blame you.
It does. Like, Buffy it is incredibly deep as you move along in the series, but it never feels heavy. It never feels hard to watch. It's always so entertaining, and there is a joy to it. There's a joy, not necessarily Buffy has a ton of teen angst, but just I think the world that he's presenting, that these things are possible. Very insightful, Joe Starr. You are both funny and insightful.
Oh, thank you.
And I just realized that means we're probably going to get more J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon in this Batgirl movie, and that just got me even more excited.
Which super fine with. So guys, on a scale of like just got off the bus to Hollywood to has a web series to hasn't met Ryan Gosling in La La Land quite yet to like a 4-episode arc in Vikings, like how unknown does we go?
I think realistically that sometimes larger audiences will feel like, oh, that's a total unknown, but no one really is. They've been a total unknown that's been working for 10 years because rarely, like if it's a very young character, obviously, but rarely will people actually not have worked. It will probably just be somebody that's been working under the radar for a long time. I would go 4-episode arc on Vikings.
I would imagine it'd be kind of like Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy, where everybody's like, "Oh, it's a total unknown." I'm like, he's been on Parks and Rec for years. What are you talking about?
He not only was in Parks and Rec, but he was in several movies.
It's because he's already done Zero Dark 30.
He did 5-Year Engagement.
And
like he was a working actor. He just wasn't a famously working actor.
So I would imagine something like somebody that has like I've seen Jane Levy's name thrown in there, and she had a series, and she was on Don't Breathe and Evil Dead. So she's been doing stuff, but like to the world at large you'd be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, person. Well, yeah, even with Rose in our new Star Wars The Last Jedi, a college humor actress, unknown, but to us comedy snobs, very well known.
Yeah, or like the actor who plays Finn in Star Wars. It's like, oh, he's an unknown. It's like Attack the Block is one of the
John
best.
Boyega,
The Attack the Block's amazing.
And what a different character too. You guys should see Attack the Block.
Good for him.
Seen it. Good for you, John Boyega.
And yes, please do see Attack the Block. I love that movie.
He also, total side note, really quickly, he also is handling it the exact way you would want somebody who got that opportunity. He is, speaking of joy, he's having so much fun with the fact that he's in Star Wars, which is exactly what you want, because you want to have that vicarious experience.
Yeah, that's the Barbara Gordon I want. I want to vicariously Barbara. That goes on my tombstone, probably. He vicariously Barbara to his fullest extent. Guys, let's start a social. We asked you guys, do comic book movies need stars to work? Matt, what are they saying on the interwebs?
Well, first, I just want to say you had mentioned the head of the Nova Corps earlier. That's known as the Nova Prime.
Thank you.
You're welcome, as played by Glenn Close.
The Baron Administrator of the Nova Corps.
Yeah. So the internet, we've got Jay Garcia, who says, to work? Question mark? No. To sell tickets to the general audience? Maybe? So,
okay.
Then Devin Colson says, I think a comic book movie needs these essentials. Great storytelling, great characters, great chemistry, a sense of levity, a fun moments.
He got that all in one tweet too. Nice.
And he had enter between all.
That's
seriously. Delisha Russell says, I don't think so. People for the most part just want a great story. And Why I Love Movies says, it helps, but they need more dedicated screenwriters with a clear vision and a director that understands the vision and works with them.
Well, we got that.
So
yeah.
I
mean, if you look at Marvel too, when they're getting people like Cate Blanchett, you know, I think they are doing that, like we're saying, because you immediately feel that sense of like, oh, this is a powerful figure because it's Cate Blanchett, right? And you have all that history of not only her career, but some of the characters she's played.
Yeah.
Plus, oh my God, I need to marry that. Have you guys seen what she is doing as Hela?
Keep it in your fanfic. Keep it in your fanfic.
That's an amazing trailer. I've never been more excited for a Thor movie.
Yeah.
And then I'm excited for a Thor movie.
It's going to be real good. It's going to be real good. Matt Key, you got any feelings on Batgirl?
I'm excited for it. Like you said, the J.K. Simmons thing, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like
that's very true.
And I would love to see John Boyega as Batgirl. I think he would do a great job.
That was a good suggestion. That was a good suggestion.
Total unknown.
Great suggestion.
Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, talking Batgirl. Internet, we want to know, what do you guys think? Does Batgirl need a movie star to carry the film, or are comic book IPs strong enough that they don't need them? Who do you want to see play Batgirl? Let us know in the comments, and like Dalton says, be nice to each other. Make sure to click around here for more videos, like and subscribe. We'll see you later. Bye.
The blood is good.
The blood is good.